First of all, a very warm welcome to this webinar. My name is Joy, and I will co-leading it with David. You both see us on the videos. We are really happy that you are here, especially that you are taking the time at such a, I'm going to call it turbulent and a certain time where we are now. What we are really seeing is that working from home has become a must for so many of us from one day to the other. And we know that many people are struggling with it because they have never worked remotely for a longer time, maybe 1-2 days, but not more. And what we also believe is that remote work, it's not only present now, but it's also here to stay in a larger way that it was till now. And what we see is that we are being challenged more than we had ever been before in so many different ways. And one more thing we see is that our private and professional lives are now being so intertwined, they're almost becoming one. So how do we cope with that? Yeah, so a very warm welcome. We are happy that you're here, and we go further. So first of all, maybe a bit who we are. David, would you like to introduce yourself?
Indeed, yeah. My name is David Evans, and yeah, I spent half of my career in the consumer goods marketing environment in both marketing and leadership roles. And the second half of my career has been as a business improvement consultant with a particular focus on people effectiveness.
Yeah. Thank you, David. And David, you are based in Harrogate in the UK, right?
I'm based in Harrogate, UK. That's right.
Yeah. And my name is Joy. I am originally from Slovenia. I live in Vienna, and my previous career was in the oil and gas industry for almost 17 years. I even don't remember how many years, I actually work as an executive coach, working with teams and on leadership development. And I am based in Vienna in Austria, but working internationally. And actually with David, we have already done a few programs together, and we just love working together. And last week, when we saw so many people struggling with the new situations, we just said, okay, let's put something together. Let's help out as many people as we can.
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing, we've got 2 webinars. Obviously today we're going to be focusing on working remotely, and the second one next week, next Tuesday, will be about leading remotely and holding virtual meetings. So yeah, today we'll be talking very much about working from home. And we're doing this, as Joy just said, to help people out at this time of need. There's loads of material on LinkedIn and in other places on the internet, which is very much in the written style. And so we thought a short webinar would be helpful to our friends who've joined us today. So the style of this is going to be very conversational. We will be inviting you to send questions to us via the Q&A facility at the bottom of your screen. So please feel free to put questions up, which we'll look at towards the end of the webinar. And as Joy said, we'll be recording this, and that will enable us to share this with you and others after the event. And just to make sure that we're all on mute, other than myself and Joy, just that cuts out any background sound. So if all that makes sense, we're going to start, Joy, I think, with a poll, aren't we? A question.
Yeah, so just so you know, everyone is on mute except the 2 of us. So I can unmute people if they raise their hand and they really want to come into the discussion. So we will start with a poll, and you will see on your screen, there is a poll, and you can just click on one of the answers, and it's like, the questions are, have you worked from home over the last 4 weeks during normal work hours? And you have the opportunity to give one answer. People, you can vote.
Feel free to vote, guys.
Yeah, I cannot see the poll. Oh, okay.
So
There
what I
is
should,
a poll.
yeah. So
Which
what I
you
should
should
say
be able
is that
to see it.
we're learning as we go on this, aren't we, Joy?
Yeah. Actually, this is our first webinar. Oh, yeah. Okay. I see somebody already sees it.
Okay.
All good. Okay. People are seeing it. So
Okay. So some people are. Raphael has said he can't see the
I can.
options.
Some people can see it. Some cannot.
Yeah, I'm not seeing I'm not seeing the page.
Okay, let me do one thing. I will end the poll and I will start it again. Let's start again. Let's see. Okay, so we go into polling. I'm going to relaunch the poll. Continue.
Is it because you're in presentation mode on the PowerPoint?
I'm not sure. Can you see the poll now?
No.
Nope. Okay.
Okay, look, we may have to move on from the poll.
We will move the poll. Okay, sorry. We are really sorry. We don't know because it should be working perfectly. So you see, this is the way, this is the world we live in right now today, right?
Unpredictable.
So, unpredictable when technology doesn't work, and some people see it, some people don't see it. So actually, I honestly, I don't know what is wrong here, but I would just leave it. So the question was more, how often have you worked from home in the last 4 weeks during normal hours? And some people are saying more than 8 days, some people are saying 2 to 4 days, some people are saying fewer than 2 days. So there are some of you in here who are new actually to working from home.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna end the poll and we go to the next question. So yeah, let's leave the poll and we start.
Good experience, Joy.
Yeah, good experience. Perfect. We are all learning. First fail of the day.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
setting yourself up to work from home. Actually, what we believe is because so many of us are not used to work from home, we are used to go to the office, that this is really important. And also what we see, not everyone is lucky enough to have an office at home. And you know, we have now our families at home and so on. So we really thought that setting ourselves up to work from home, that we can be productive, is something we should talk to. So the first thing we really believe it's important, it's our working space. David, what is your opinion? Why is that so important?
well, it's really important in order to create a separation from your, I suppose, your personal life and the things that are going on around you at home. I tuned into the BBC's daily current affairs program today, World at One, which is a 45-minute program about current affairs. And it was presented from the kitchen table of the presenter, Sarah Montague. And I just thought that was really interesting. And she actually said, look, I'm trying this to make sure it works because, you know, I will have to self-isolate at some point. And so, you know, they're getting, you know, even the BBC are getting tuned into the idea of working remotely. So first of all, creating a discrete working space away from your living quarters is a really good idea if that is possible, given the accommodation you might be in. And part of that then is also tidying up around it to remove potential distractions. And I always find that if we can make that working space light and airy, perhaps opening windows if possible to provide natural temperatures and airflows, obviously depending on the weather of the day. And then making sure that the seat that you're sitting in is comfortable, at the right height, and ergonomically suitable. Because what I find working from home is I actually find myself spending more time sat down, perhaps, than I would be in the office. And so the seat that you're using has to be really, really right for you. And then finally, for me, if you put all the things that you're likely to be using within easy reach of your seated position, you're less likely to stretch and strain, and it's going to be a more comfortable working environment.
Yeah.
So that's what I've found works for me.
Yeah, I think what's also important is you should not work, or if you can, don't work from your sofa. Because when it comes to the working space, it's really about the location, location, location. It's find a space in your home, whatever it is, a little table in the living room or in the kitchen or in the bedroom, that doesn't remind you of relaxation. Because for me, sofa means I'm gonna watch TV, I'm gonna have a coffee, I'm gonna read a book. And
Yeah.
I really cannot really fully concentrate and work when I'm sitting on the sofa, for example. So it's really important to have that location. And what we see nowadays, so many of us don't have it. So be creative. Be creative. Take a shelf, put it somewhere with books below or whatever it is, but be creative and get something for your space.
Yeah. Okay, so what are your thoughts on technology, Joy?
Yeah, so technology, as we have seen, it's a really important part, and especially if it doesn't work. So what I think about technology is it needs to fit the purpose, meaning what do we really need? We don't need fancy stuff at the moment. We need a good laptop. We might need a headset, maybe a noise canceling one. We really need a good camera, because I believe that especially when we don't meet people anymore, having that visual will really help a lot. So the cameras should be on. And then there's so much technology out there on how to actually cooperate with your teams, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and so on, because we still need the technology to be as human as possible, that we still have that interaction. Anything to add, David?
Good headset, really important, because it means that the sound that I'm receiving and the sound I'm sending out hopefully is uh, as as clear as it possibly can be. I think good lighting is important,
Yeah.
and I also think that not being overexposed to the screen is really important as well, because frankly we are more likely, without people interrupting us in the office, at home, more likely to be in front of the screen perhaps for longer. So it's really important we don't get overexposed
Yeah.
from too much technology.
Yeah, maybe just an idea. I know someone who was like, well, in the office I have a big screen and at home I have just a little computer.
Yeah,
If you can even put your computer on the TV if you have a TV at home. So you
sure.
immediately have a bigger screen. So it's just those little tips. It's like be creative, try to find out what works best for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course that depends on the boundaries that you've created, and the alignment you've got with the family, doesn't it?
Exactly. And
So
we are coming to the family alignment and boundaries.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I think this is a really important point. Um, Agreeing with our cohabitants what our workspace and working times are is fundamental. You and they should know that when you're working and when you're not. And it's easy for times and lines to blur and conflicts to arise if we don't do that. So, for some people, they argue that working from home should be as if it's working at the office. The day should start and finish at the same time to maintain the routine, and so that other people know when you're in or not. Um, but of course, if we work in an international setting, working from home can sometimes work to our advantage, because we can perhaps operate a more of a flexi time approach to time with some of our international colleagues and stakeholders. So the big caveat there, the big question is to make sure that we set our boundaries about when we are and are not working. And if we find that we're flexi timing, that we don't work so many hours that we start to suffer any sort of burnout. So whatever works for you, communicate this with your family and friends and colleagues so that it's clear to all stakeholders when you are and are not working.
Yeah, exactly. And especially now, it's so important because we will not be working at home for a day or two or a week. It might be 2, 3, 4 weeks. We don't know how long this is going to last. Maybe just an idea of a client of mine that actually he has to work from home. His wife has to work from home, and they have 3 kids that are also at the same time at home right now. So during the last session, actually, he came up with the idea that he will start working at 6 a.m. and will work till about 11, 12. So then they have lunch all together. So his wife was taking care of the kids in the morning. She would work in the afternoon and he would take care of the kids in the afternoon. This is just an idea. It might help. Or you have slots, 3 hours I work and you take care of the kids and so on. So just make sure you agree on those things because this really helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, just making sure then that your colleagues are aware of that and that that's
yeah,
going to work for everyone.
Yeah. And on the other hand, if your kids are a bit bigger, well, you can still give them assignments. You know, we're not here to teach you parenting, but it's also like, how can you, and don't feel bad if you do spend time with your kids now. We are all in this together. It's such a difficult time for all of us. So we need to be creative and so on.
Good.
Yeah. And after that,
well, of course, yeah. If we're working at home, quite often there'll be distractions in the same way that there are in the office.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on distractions and managing those, Joy?
Well, maybe before we go into distractions, we want to show you a video. Okay. So let me just do that.
Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals? And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in relations to the North may change. I would be surprised if they do.
Oh, here comes the cavalry.
Yeah, and here comes the wife. I'm sure many of you have seen this video already before, right? So this is something that might happen over the next weeks and months. So don't feel bad about it. It's something that happens. So this is a possible distraction. The question is how do you want to react in this situation? It's like, you know, if your cat comes by and just take her, you can even hold it during the call. It's fine. We are all in the same situation. If your kids come, why don't you just introduce them to your team? It's like, hey, this is Barbara or whatever the name is. Just introduce them. Be natural. Then we have other distractions like going to the fridge all the time for some people. Well, we all do that. Don't feel bad. Maybe if you really want to improve on going glass, start writing down how many times per day you really do it and try to keep reducing it so that it's not 20 times a day, that it's 10 times a day. And one thing that really helps as well with distractions is that you switch off all the apps that you don't need at work, like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, because we are bombarded with messages from everywhere. Just to switch off. Even like just for this webinar, I left only Zoom and PowerPoint open. I closed all the other documents in my laptop so that no distraction is coming in. And believe me, this really, really helps a lot.
Yeah, I think the watchword here is about being flexible. As Joy said, sometimes these things happen and we need to just be a bit flexible about it. And, we get distractions from family, friends, delivery people, service callers at the house. I mean, for example, I have my office deliberately at the front of the house so that I can see if people do come to the front door and I can choose then whether or not to answer them. So, yeah, I think we just need to manage them as we see them. But obviously work to minimize them where we can, as we talked through the topics on working space and family boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, we go. Yeah. Ooh, connection. Yeah.
Say a little more, Joy.
Yeah, well, connection is something that it's really close to my heart, because how do we keep close while we keep the distance, right? We are used to meeting people, at least either in the office or privately, and now we are being asked to stay home and not meet anyone anymore. So I really believe that it's important to keep that connection, and we can do that in different ways. One is, how about just finding a buddy, somebody that actually you can always call when you feel this sense of isolation, right? Somebody that I can give a call and I'm going to hear a voice. I started to, for example, schedule coffees via Skype and Zoom. And those are not long ones. They might be even just 5 or 10 minutes just to have the interaction with different people. One other thing is I have decided that every day I have to speak to at least 5 people, and 2 have to be private. And speak, I mean really on the phone, not chatting on WhatsApp or whatsoever, really talking, because this instant communication has become the new norm. And I believe, especially in the situation where we are now, we need to go back to what we lost to really feel connected. And yeah, and you know, there is one thing that, because when we are in the office, for example, what happens, we go for a coffee with a colleague, or we buy somebody lunch and so on, and this is not happening. So show compassion maybe in other ways. Just send an email, I'm thinking of you, or you did really great, or something like that, a bit of appreciation, because this really helps, because we are social beings. We need that socializing in one way or the other. So don't forget that. And especially if you are living alone, like for example I do, this becomes even more important. And well, you might even be an introvert, then you are so happy to be in our home and like, leave me alone, I'm fine. Whatever works best for you, but those are just some tips for that. Yeah. David, anything else that works for you with the connection to add?
I think scheduling it. I think it's just being very, very aware of it, and scheduling some time in to talk to people through the day is massively important.
Yeah.
So I think you've covered that well.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is one of my favorites. So what do you think about dress code, David?
It reminds me of a time when I was working with an organization, and occasionally colleagues would have a working from home day, and we'd always call it a PJ day, because there was a bit of a joke about it almost being that they're going to work from home and they're not going to work quite as hard as they would do if they were in the office, and they don't even need to get out of their PJs, their pajamas. So, you know, dress code's a difficult one, because, you know, some people say, well, you should dress as if you were going to work. And for some people, that may mean sitting in their office or at the kitchen table at home in a suit and a shirt or whatever. Other people say, you know, dress comfortably casual. I think, you know, my approach is simply to think, well, what if I was asked unexpectedly to appear on an important video link? What would people think about my dress wear if that were the case? So I think that's just the guiding principle. And of course, if you've got specific video calls with people, who clients or colleagues, and there is an agreed way in which we're going to address and the way we look, then obviously we would probably play to that. So I think it's just use some common sense, really.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also about, for me, what makes you feel that you are at work, right? Why am I saying that? Because if I'm dressed in my pajama, I don't feel at work. So I don't have the I'm working mindset. So for me, it's like, I'm not going to put a suit on while I'm at home, but I still, when I work from home, what I like is just maybe some jeans and a blouse or something that gives me that more of a professional feeling, because that helps me being more productive and more concentrated on the work as well.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I remember when I started working from home, I was wearing shoes at home as well. And I was wearing high heels just because it made me feel I'm going to work, even though I physically did not go. Good
stuff. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, I guess here now we're talking about something serious, which is about being purposeful and being productive at home as well. So what are your thoughts on this, Joy?
Yeah. You know, working from home, as we said, it can be a challenge. So especially if we are not used to it. So what really helps is at the beginning, you know, in the morning, after our routine, you know, and when I say after our routine, I mean, keep your morning routine as if you would go to work. Don't change your routine right now. wake up at the same time, work out, have breakfast, shower, whatever is your routine, keep it the same. And then take some time to really think of, what is the purpose of today? What do I have to reach? What do I have to accomplish? What are the tasks on my list? Because it really helps to give some structure of how your day is going to look like.
Yeah.
In addition, I think what really helps is to separate your day in different chunks if you can. And there are also, different, I'm going to say, productivity tools. There is the Pomodoro one, and actually the Eisenhower matrix. Do you know what is the Pomodoro one, David?
I do, yeah.
What is the Pomodoro one?
And the same as the Eisenhower, which we'll share with people at the end of this.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's something they can go and look for.
Yeah, okay. So there are some really things that you can then share, and for you really it will help you to, in a way, schedule your day.
Yeah.
Because what is also important is, at the end of the day, to write a list or a to-do list. What am I going to do tomorrow, or what do I have to do tomorrow? Because it will help you kind of psychologically close your working day and go back to your normal private life, because you need to find a way to start your working day and stopping your working day without actually physically going to the office, and having a purpose in the morning of what do I want to achieve and what do I have to do tomorrow, and for example also what have I accomplished, really helps to have these boundaries there as well, and to switch off at the end of the day. Yeah, so leaving the office, which
I think reviewing progress is really important. We make a conscious effort to do that. That helps us to feel that we've been productive, and also it helps us to make that differentiation between the work day and the non-work part of the day.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Thank you for adding, David. Yeah. Oh, we are talking again about alignment. Team alignment.
Yeah, and we'll talk a lot more about this next week, actually. But I think there's just a few things to share right now. I think first of all, it's really important to share with your team members what you're going to be doing, and what they are going to be doing, and what they should expect of you, and what you expect of them. I think it's important to focus on checking in with people regularly to ensure that everyone's working effectively remotely and are not feeling perhaps slightly left out, and also that they're on track to deliver what is expected of them. And we probably do that already with the teams on a real-time face-to-face basis. And I know some of the people who are listening in now are already remote team leaders, but I think we just need to accentuate what we're doing in the real time, in the real world, remotely, so that people really feel that they're not being left out. The other thing to do, of course, is to be able to share remote working best practice with people regularly. So if you find that there's certain things that you're doing when you're working from home that are working really well for you, share that with people and encourage that they share similar tips with you. So my rule of thumb is do what you always do to manage team members, stakeholders, and other interested parties, but perhaps do it even more so than usual.
Yeah, for me here, it's really about being very purposeful about the team alignment, about the rules, how are we going to work together, and what do we need from each other. And it's a lot about clarity.
Yeah.
Really, how do we even more clearly than ever communicate about all the things you mentioned? So yeah. Okay.
Now, Joe, I'm just conscious of time. We've got probably about 10 minutes left, just over 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think we, in the spirit of being fair with people, we said this was going to be a 45-minute webinar.
Yeah.
We need to crank it up a touch, perhaps.
Speed up. Yeah. Okay, we do that. So I think one of the important parts, it's also to go to work, but psychologically, it's whatever works for you. It might be having the same routine in the morning, dressing up, just maybe going out of the house and coming back in a minute, whatever helps you getting, into that work, I'm going to say, mode and so on. It should really, really be part of your routine in the morning, because it will be challenging. And this is something that helps with your productivity, because you are I'm in my working mode and not in my home relaxing and so on. We leave the poll because they are not working. And now we come to maybe one of the most important things in the situation where we are all in. And I love the picture here, because it's just about how do we keep a healthy mind. So David, what do you believe are the things that really help us keep a healthy mind?
Well, I think there's a lot of research that shows that we tend to work best in blocks of time. So we can work really intensively for perhaps 25-30 minutes, and a lot of the research recommends that we then take a 5 to 10 minute break after a really intensive 30 minute period. Because we're working at home, the likelihood is that we will have the opportunity of working, quite a concentrated way. And so to have those 5 or 10 minute breaks is really important. Giving you perhaps outdoors break for fresh air and a quick walk, or indoor cycle, or using whatever is available to you, all of that, breaking up the day and being a little more active in some of the parts of it, means that we're going to be more productive and healthier, which is a win-win, of course. Yeah. Today, for example, I've walked 7 kilometers today. I went out for a walk before I started work. I had a walk at lunchtime, and frankly, if I'd been in the office, I probably wouldn't have done that, because I'd have been in the office and almost under other people's scrutiny. So I think that whole idea of power breaks is really important. The other thing I find really useful is when I do go for lunch, if I have lunch at home, is to eat away from the workplace, away from my desk, which means I have a clearly defined lunch break. And it manages that differentiation between work and non-work. So I think that's really useful.
Yeah, and especially if you are working at your dining table, what already helps is if you eat sitting on a different chair at the table. You already have the differentiations, because you have a different view. And I see David laughing, but it's something that really helps. And I think in self-care, it's, don't forget to drink healthy food, do your sports, read a book if you have the time, or just spend time with your kids, whatever gives you joy. Yeah, and there is one thing, even if you work from home, it's okay to have a 1 hour lunch break. Like you do in the office, it's the same, it's also from home. It's okay to have breaks, lunch or whatsoever.
So this is a big topic, and we're going to try and condense it into the next 3 or 4 minutes. Joy, why don't you kick this off and tell us a little bit about mindset?
Yeah, so mindset. I think when it comes to mindset, it's written in the picture, you are what you listen to, right? So when it comes to mindset, I think especially in the moment where we are in, it's so important to keep a growth mindset, meaning really looking at opportunities, at what's next, being open for new ideas, being creative. I think one more thing, it's about how do we keep a positive thinking versus a negative thinking, because, we might get into panic mode, or, like, oh God, this is not going to work, or nobody likes me, or whatever it is that comes on in our head, it's just challenge those, I'm going to say saboteurs, or, those negative thinking. It's not true. Everything is just gonna be fine. So try to keep your positive thinking. Then I really believe that practicing gratitude, it's something that really helps with keeping a healthy mindset at the moment. It's, what am I grateful for in this moment? What am I grateful for in this situation? What am I grateful for today? And I really believe that this is something that will keep you, in a good, positive spirit. One other thing that really matters is to focus on what you can control, because nowadays there are so many things we cannot control, unfortunately. So there are things we cannot influence. So really, if you can really focus on the things you can control, because this will help you as well. One more is, there are so many challenges, so many obstacles out there at the moment. Think about how can you turn them into opportunities? Like, what's the good in it? Like, what's the good in the bad right now? Those are questions that you can start asking yourself. And I wrote here best friend, because I really believe that, especially in those situations, we should talk to ourselves like we would to our best friend. What happened with the poll, I was like, a few years ago, I was like, oh my God, how the hell did I do that? Was not able to manage it and so on. Nowadays, I'm like, well, it happens, because this is how I would talk to my best friend. So turn that in the way you talk to yourself. Humor and having a good laugh are extremely important, because they're going to take your stress level away. Whatever it helps, looking at the video, telling jokes, or with whomever, this is a really important part. And then do things every day that bring you joy. And even if it is just calling me, it's fine, but do things that bring you joy, because this is so important nowadays. And maybe one of the most important things that we will all need over the next weeks is mutual understanding and a lot of compassion towards ourselves, our family, our team members, our suppliers, the people we work with, because this will be the key that we can all get through this out, I'm going to say, with a healthy mind and so on. So yeah, that's about the mindset, David. It's a lot of things we all know, but especially nowadays, it's really, it's important to kind of, having that checklist is, am I doing this?
Yeah, and you know what? I think one of the benefits that comes out of the situation we find ourselves in, where we are forced to work from home and think about how we work in a more proactive way, is that by practicing these things and working in a more self-aware way, that will actually help us long term to be a better friend, a better colleague, a better partner, and a more productive person as well. So actually, all these lessons that we're talking about here, particularly around mindset, are going to be lessons for life that, if we take seriously and practice, we'll find they're going to be, they'll if you like, they'll pay out in spades when we come back into a more physically collaborative world.
Yeah,
so exactly. I think it's great.
Yeah, and this is the end of the first webinar. Please don't log off yet if you can. We still have some time, and we would love to hear your questions so that we can answer as much as we have. You can either write them in the Q&A or in the chat. I'm going to be looking at both.
And just whilst you're thinking about that, we have another webinar next Tuesday, which is 3 o'clock UK time, 4 o'clock in Europe.
Central Eastern
Europe. And we will be covering the topic of leading remotely and managing remote meetings, virtual meetings. Yeah. So there'll be a link to this, but there'll be more material, if you like.
Okay, so Jamie is writing, are you able to also send an Outlook invitation for next week's session? So everyone who has registered for this webinar will receive an email for registration for the next webinar, because it was so that there is a different link. Everything was clear. Thank you for these advices. Thank you, Michele. No question, just a thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Anything else anyone wants to write or say, or any questions, please feel free to contact us. Feel free to also add us on LinkedIn as well. Those are our contacts here for both of us. And yeah, I see no questions, but I'm still gonna write. If anyone has any question, please feel free to just ask. People are saying thank you. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
absolutely.
Simon. Thank
Thanks,
you,
Liz.
Well,
Keep
we
well
really
and
hope
safe.
it was useful. And if nothing else, a reminder. And maybe I just share at the end. This is the Pomodoro for the people, because a technique that we were talking about before. Excellent time. Thanks, Rafael. Thank you a lot. Thank you, Maurizio. And this is the Eisenhower metric. So those are the two that we...
Cheers, Mark.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers, Mark. Exactly. Yeah, we really hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know also after that. We are open. Thank you, Maria Magdalena. We are open to questions later on as well. We hope that we could help you as much as we could, and we really look forward to next week. Thank you, guys. Really useful. Looking forward to the next one. Thank you, Roxana. Great to see you both again. Thank you, Paul. Happy to offer stuff for the session next week. Thank you, Simon. Thank you from Anna. Ciao from Michele.
Okay. I think people are leaving us. So thanks, everyone, and look forward to meeting you all again next week. And please feel free to invite other colleagues who you feel would benefit from the webinar next time. Yeah, how to lead teams virtually and how to lead virtual meetings. So this is next week. And we are so excited. It's our first webinar, David. Give me 5. Hey. We did it, partner. Okay. Let's close the line, shall we? Yeah, Roland says, thanks, I'm doing it similar as you said. You put it in good words. Thank you, Roland. Great, thank you. Looking forward to next week. From Lena, thank you, Lena. I'm just gonna keep reading what people are saying. Yeah. Feel free, everyone, to just log off, and we're looking forward